I'm thinking about mortality this morning. I'm 85 years old and I think about mortality occasionally. It's not a big deal. It's part of life, which is a cliche that doesn't really cover it. Tell you what covers it. What substantially covers mortality recently to me. This is kind of a downer, but I intend to start down and then I'll come back up. This is a good thing. We went to a funeral last week. The third time in my life I've been to a funeral. My grandmother when I was 20 years old. My friend Mark Chapman last year. And last weekend, a dear old lady Elaine and I both loved is her ex-sister-in-law. And I've known the old lady for 50 years. Sweet, sweet woman. But the idea that I have to express first here today is about funerals. It's the reason I don't go to funerals. I'll probably have to go to my own, but nobody's really informed me about that yet. Maybe I won't. Maybe I'll just not be there. We went into the back of the funeral home up in Georgetown, where she lived in an assisted living place for a number of years, but she passed away last week, Monday morning, real early. And they buried her on Friday, and we went up there Friday, went into the back of the funeral home, into the family entrance. She has a huge family. There probably were 60, 80 people there that were all related to her. Well, she had great-grandchildren. 7 of them, I believe. Yeah, I myself have 2.5 great-grandchildren. So the thing is, this going to the funeral was a experience for me and Elaine, in that it confirmed our already established feelings about such proceedings. We just don't want a funeral like that one, which I believe is a more or less conventional funeral, a religious service, conducted in, I'm sure, a standard manner, and well done of its type. However, this is not what we want. We went in the family entrance through I guess what you'd call a grieving room, a well-decorated, well-furnished room, and into the chapel. And the first thing that we saw as we rounded the corner through the door was her body, open casket, right there. And I did not want to see that. In spite of all the good work these guys do, they're not alive, these people. And you can tell. She never looked that good the whole time she was alive. She was a typical old lady. Her wild hair, white hair in all directions, glasses down on her nose. Sweet person, such a sweet person. I didn't want to see her. Neither did Elaine. So I tried to walk by without looking. Got back I've sat way back in the back row because I'm not family. I'm not related to her. Elaine is not either, really. It was her sister-in-law. She's married to her brother. But it was so, I can't think of a word. It's just not what I would like to happen to me. I won't go into it in any great detail, but we followed the procession out to the graveyard cemetery, and they buried her next to her husband. And I believe they opened the casket again, because I wasn't looking. I sat in the car. I parked a little ways off and sat in the car. Elaine went over there, and she was subdued. Elaine was subdued because we got in the car and we drove back home, which was 140 miles. And nearly the whole way, the only thing we said was, "Not for me. That's not for me." We want to be cremated. Both of us do. It's in our right to die papers. And what I'd like is something special done with my ashes. Elaine says she doesn't really care. Well, it's not up to her. I'll do what she wants, and she'll do what I want. And here's what I want. I want my ashes given, wholly or in part, probably just a part, give a spoonful of my ashes to David Caton, one of my best friends, and certainly my very best student, and ask him to mix these ashes into his paint and put them in a painting of Big Bend. Isn't that sweet? I think that's so sweet. I think he'd love to do it too. I'm going to ask him next time I see him. I thought at first that I'd spread these ashes around among all my students, but over the years I've had 400 students. So, and not all of them are pursuing painting like David is. There are some others, but David, you know, he is my favorite, I got to tell you. I feel like we're close, and we can do this kind of thing with each other. I do it for him. But I think that this is the statement I wanted to make here about funerals. Specifically, we have the right to designate what happens to us. So I'm designating that right now on video, and I'm going to trust you to see that it is well known, not in the event of my death, but at the time of it, because it's closer than we think.